Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're going to be focusing on navigating your settings on a Windows computer. So that's any PC computer that uses Windows software. That might be HP's, IBM's, Lenovo's. So we're going to be focusing on looking at those settings, how to find them, how to navigate them, and how to make changes to personalize your device. Now, today's webinar is proudly sponsored by BreezeLine. BreezeLine is the 8th largest cable provider in the US. BreezeLine offers internet, TV, and voice services to residents and businesses in 12 states. Their business is getting people connected, much like we do here at Cyber Seniors. So before we get started, we're going to see a quick video from BreezeLine.
Wi-Fi your way home, powered by Plume Home Pass. Technology that spreads ultra-fast Wi-Fi to every inch of your home. We make having a Wi-Fi supercharged home easy by including a SuperPod with your Wi-Fi gateway package. Learn more at breezeline.com.
All right, and if you want to find out more about what BreezeLine offers, you can visit them online after this session at www.breezeline.com. All right, let's jump in. All right, so here we are on our Windows desktop. So we're going to be looking at how to access our settings, and there are really two main ways we can access our settings from our desktop. The first is to go down to this little kind of area in the bottom left corner, and there's like a search bar down there. So we can click on the search bar, and from here we can just search for settings, and it should pop up on the list, and we can click it and access our settings from there. Now, the second way to do this, we're going to go back down to that bottom left corner, and you should see a little symbol, the Windows symbol. That is our start menu. We can click on that button in the bottom left corner, and this should bring up our start menu, and right above the button, second button up above power, is settings. And that should bring us into our settings menu. And here we can see all of our options for settings, from systems to privacy. But we're going to start looking at system. All right, so once we're in our settings here, we'll see that we have a bunch of options on the left. And these are different setting areas that we can click into. Whichever area we have selected will be visible on the right side. So right now we're in our display settings. The first thing we can see is to rearrange our display. This is if we have multiple screens or monitors. I have two. And then you can go down and we can see things like brightness and color. So we can adjust how bright or dark our screen is with this little bar that we can kind of glide up and down across, or side to side across the screen, to change how bright or dark our screen is. And then continuing down, we'll have things like night light, which basically changes the color of our screen from bright colors to dark colors to adjust so it doesn't hurt our eyes or strain our eyes when we're looking at it in the dark. Now you can turn this on or off with just the toggle switch there. Right now it's on, and this means the computer will automatically adjust these settings for you. But if we click into where it says below night light settings, we'll get some more options. So here we can manually change the strength of the light to make it, like I said, brighter or warmer colors. Now, as I'm doing this, you can see how I can make it brighter or warmer. You won't actually be able to see that on your screen. It's only visible to me because it's dealing with the actual light behind my screen. When I'm sharing it, you can't see that. But basically, I'm just making my screen darker and brighter. And we can move down into this schedule section. So again, if we leave it just on the regular setting, it will just automatically change these things. But I can also manually schedule this. So say I want these colors to adjust at the same time every night, I can do that. Otherwise, it usually uses either what time it is or some sort of light monitor on your screen to understand how dark it is in whichever room you are in. But as you can see from here, we can go through and select a time, say 10 p.m. that we want it to go dark at, and either click the check mark or the X to cancel or accept that. And yeah. All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is our sound settings. So we'll go to that on the left. It will appear on the right. So we can see basic settings like our output, so where we're setting our music out of or volume out of. We can also see things like just our master volume. So this is just adjusting the volume as we could adjust it with our volume keys on our keyboard or wherever those are located. We can also adjust that manually from here. And that's all our output stuff. So you'll see it's broken up into output and input. Output's all the volume that comes out of our computer. Input being any sort of sound that we feed into the computer, so through our microphone when we're on maybe a video call or something. And those settings are generally quite similar, and you can adjust them from down there in the input settings. We can also go into this troubleshoot setting, and this allows us to get help. So if we're ever having problems with our audio, it's not coming out, it's coming out weird, we're not able to adjust it, we can check that area out to fix any problems. Right, so now we're going to look at notifications and actions. So this is the area in which we can choose whether we get kind of pop-ups and notices about certain things on our computer. So as you saw up here, you can see mine is off right now. You can turn this on or off generally, so turn on or off all notifications. But once they're on, what you can do is you can get into different apps and system functions, and you can basically turn off settings for one or the other. So say you just want notifications on for Google Chrome or your email, you can have those on and turn them off for the rest. And you really just do this by clicking these toggle buttons. So right now it's on, I click it, it turns off, I click it again, it turns on. Simple as that. So now we will move to our power and sleep settings. So this is everything to do with our screen turning on and off and our computer going into sleep. So first we have these screen settings, and we can change how much time has to elapse before our screen goes off. So from 1 minute to never, we can adjust these. And there's specifications for when our computer is not plugged in and when it's plugged in. And we might want these different, especially if we're just using battery power. We wouldn't want maybe to go above 15 minutes. Plugged in, we can have it running a bit longer, but it's not advisable to ever say never. Now moving down to sleep, this is when our computer goes to fully sleep. So that means you would be required to probably log back into the device, but it wouldn't be completely off, and you can change those times as well. Now we'll move now to battery. So this area basically shows us our battery usage. So if we scroll down, we can see how much battery each app we have running is using in terms of our overall battery usage. We can also see the total percent, 63% here at the top. There's also options like battery saver, which basically means that when our battery is low, it will limit certain applications or programs running in the background that might use more battery. Now we can change and adjust these settings to at which percentage this goes into this battery save mode. So when it gets down to 20%, 10%, whatever we feel like, or even selecting always in battery saver mode. So always limiting unnecessary background actions that might be on. So next we're going to go into storage. So this area will show us basically our overall storage usage. So right now we can see I have 917 gigabytes overall. The blue is what I've used, so 536 gigabytes used. And then I have 381 gigabytes free. And if you look below that, we'll see the different things that are using up that storage. Now, storage can be a big issue for a lot of people, not having enough. So Windows offers this setting called Storage Sense, and you can turn it on or off. But when it's on, basically what it does is it frees up space by getting rid of files you don't need. So it will empty out your recycling bin or get rid of temporary files. We can have a lot of those stored on our computer without realizing them that don't really serve much of a purpose for us. So it's advisable to turn this on. You're not going to lose anything really sensitive. And again, you can just flick it on or off with that kind of toggle. All right, so that's really it for kind of the main sections of the system settings. So we'll go back now to our main settings panel, and we're going to look now at our devices settings. So here we are in our devices settings. Now this area of our settings is really about connecting to other products we might have, whether that's a keyboard, a pair of headphones, a mouse. And the main way we tend to do this is through our Bluetooth settings. So we're going to be looking at these Bluetooth settings first. And in order to add a device through Bluetooth, we'll click Add Bluetooth or Other Device. Now, once in here, we have basically three options in terms of connecting our devices. So we're going to use Bluetooth for things like a mouse, keyboard, pens, or audio devices. But we also have options for connecting through devices through wireless displays or docks. So if we're going to be trying to put the image of our screen onto a TV screen or something. And then we have everything else. So this mostly applies to like gaming controllers and stuff like that. So say I was connecting a pair of headphones, I would just click the Bluetooth option and the device I was trying to connect should show up on a list. I can select it and then connect to it. Now I'm just going to go ahead and click cancel out of here for now. So say I had connected to a device, I would then see all of my previously connected to devices down here. So as you can see, I've previously connected to my mouse and my keyboard here. I can also see any of my previous audio devices. So you can see my headphones here listed. And if I click into one of these, I have a couple options. So I can, click in and I can remove the device if I wanted to, if I no longer had use for it, or I could connect to that device again if it's within range. So it makes it easy to reconnect. And here we see other devices. So family room TV, that's so I can connect my screen to my TV and stuff like that. All right, so now we are going to look at printers and scanners. Click into this section. Now this looks a lot like our Bluetooth and other devices section in terms of adding new things. If I want to add a new printer to be able to print things off of my computer, I'll just click this Add a Printer or Scanner button. And what happens here once I click on it is it's just going to search for options. So whether I have a printer plugged in or one's connected to my Wi-Fi network, it will search and give me options. And if I see the one I'm looking for, I can click on it to connect and add the device, click Add Device. And again, like with the Bluetooth stuff, we can see all previous printers and scanners that I've connected to, so easy to just access them there. And once we click into one of these, we get a couple options. So things like being able to open the queue, so we can click that, and that's just going to show us any sort of print jobs that are underway, if a print job has failed or whatever is going on with that printer, so we can see all of that. We can also go into other settings, so we can also remove the device if we no longer have use of it. Say we threw that printer out, we can remove it. And we can also click Manage, which just allows us to change certain settings about the specific printer. All right, so now we'll look at our mouse setting just below printers and scanners here. So here we have a few options about how we set up our mouse. So first of all, selecting our primary button. So if you're familiar with using a mouse, you know that the left button is the button you usually use to select things, and your right click brings out a menu like we're seeing on the screen now. So basically this setting allows you to change that. So you can change your primary button from your left button to your right button so that your right click is now your left click. So you could do that if you needed to. Maybe you're using a left-handed or an adjustable mouse or something like that. So you can switch back and forth. I'm going to switch back for now. And you can also do things here like change your cursor speed. So this is the speed that your mouse moves across the screen. So say you're finding that your mouse is too slow or too fast and you're having a hard time keeping track of it, you can adjust the speed in either direction, moving it to the right, making it faster, or moving it to the left and making it slower, whatever is best for you. So next we'll look at our touchpad settings. So depending on what kind of device you have, if you're using a desktop, you may use a mouse, but if you're using a laptop, you probably primarily use a touchpad. So here we can do things like adjust our touchpad sensitivity. So from most sensitive to low sensitivity. And this basically just dictates, if you swipe to your touchpad just slightly, would it shoot the mouse across the screen or move it just a tiny bit? So you can change this depending, again, if you're finding your mouse is shooting all over the screen, you might want to choose low sensitivity. All right, so we'll go back to our main settings now. And the next thing we're going to look at is our network and internet setting. So within here, we'll be able to check on our internet. So first things, we have our status. So this shows us, if we're connected to the internet, how we're connected to the internet. We can do things like see our data usage, so how much internet we're using, and basic stuff about our connection. But if we want to choose a specific way to connect to the internet, we're going to want to get into either Wi-Fi or Ethernet. So click on Wi-Fi for now. So here we can see my Wi-Fi signal is on. This means I can connect to different Wi-Fi networks, as you can see popping up here on the right. So I can select that to be my main way I'm connecting to the internet. I click on it, I click connect. If there's a password that I need to put in, I can type in that password and connect to the internet that way. But from here, I can also select other ways to connect. So through an Ethernet cable plugging into the wall, or dial up. And we'll also have options in this section for going into things like airplane mode. That means turning off all incoming and outgoing connections. So we'll see all that stuff located here in our network and internet settings. But that's the basics there. So let's jump back into our main settings and look at our personalization setting. So this personalization section mostly has to do with how our device looks, our screen looks. And the first thing we have here is our background. So we can choose what we set our desktop picture to. Now we'll see that there's all these pre-selects that I just picked one that you can choose from. You can click around for these options to change your background just with the click of a button. And we can see that the background has changed behind this window here. But if we wanted to choose a photo of our own, we could click Browse. And what this will do is it will open up our File Explorer. As you saw, don't want to go too much into that. But then you can choose any sort of personal photo you may have. You can also choose just a solid color background by going into this background menu and selecting solid color instead of picture. And you can, go into the color selector too and choose any color you'd like, drag this around and pick, maybe a nice red tone here, and change it around. And then either click done or cancel if we decide against it. We're going to go back to picture now, so we can just have a picture as our background. You can also do a slideshow as well from here, which allows you to choose multiple photos that kind of cycle through, or we'll choose a particular folder in your computer here. So we can see that there. So now we will go to colors. Again, another kind of visual thing for our screen. So here we can choose how our screen presents, light, dark, or custom. So there's kind of those two presets, light, so everything kind of turns a light gray, or dark, in which everything's dark grays and blacks. As you can see now, we're in that light mode, it's much brighter. We can also change things like our transparency effects. So if windows in certain areas appear transparent or not. So you can see this as the example. I turned it off on the left. That's become transparent once again. I turned it back on. And we can choose accent colors too. And that just changes little things that pop up. So whether it's like the highlight of something I've just selected, like now it colors it's kind of this yellowy orange, or the on-off switches on my toggles. So our next area we're going to go to is our lock screen here. So our lock screen is when we log out of our account and have our screen on, but we're not logged into the device. And we can do things like this, like select if it's a picture or a slideshow is what we see when our computer is logged out. And this is just, whatever you like to look at. It might be more kind of, I guess, colloquially known as your screensaver. That's what this section is all about. Now we'll go back again to our main settings. And next we are going to look at our apps. So here, the first section we'll be in is our apps and features section. And basically from here, we can see basically all the apps we have downloaded onto our device. So if you scroll down, you'll see all of them and you can click on them and you can figure out things like how much space they're taking up. You can also use the search feature kind of at the top of this area to search through your apps. They will be listed alphabetically. But from here, say you click into one, you'll have two options basically. You can either click uninstall, as you see, or move. Move would just allow you to move it to a different drive if you have one plugged into your computer. And if you click uninstall, then you can remove it from your computer. So say there's an app that's taking up a lot of space and you're not using it a lot, you can click uninstall, click uninstall again, and that would remove that app from your device. Okay, so next we're going to look at default apps. So basically, if we go into this section, what we'll see is we'll see the defaulted apps that we go to when we're doing certain actions. So for example, we have our default web browser. So this is anytime we click a link, what browser is used to open that link. So right now it's Google Chrome, but we can change it to Edge or Internet Explorer or whatever other browser we have downloaded on our device. We can do this as well with our mail, so we can click into mail, and right now it's the Outlook Mail app, but we could change it to say Microsoft Edge, Chrome, or again, whatever we have installed on our device. And this goes as well, let's switch this back to mail for now, for maps, music player, and photo viewer, and video player as well. So if we happen to have different applications that we can use to play music or play video or open photos, we can use those as our defaults instead. And then we can just click reset at the bottom if we ever want to go back to default settings. Now, another important setting section within this apps section is this startup area. Now, basically what this shows you is all of the apps you have that begin at startup. So if they're off, that means they don't start when you turn on your computer. But if they're on, that means when you are turning on your computer, logging into your computer, that these applications are automatically opened. And so sometimes these might be things like your email, your browser, or whatever. But the more of these things you have open, it will slow down your device startup. So this is a good area to go to if you find that it's taking a long time for your computer to load up. You can just go and see what's on, turn on or off, and that should help with computer speed a bit. So let's go back to our main settings now, and we will look at our account settings. So right under accounts here, second row. So in here, you'll be able to see basically your information. So your name that's registered to the device, and then your email in there as well. You can also click Manage My Microsoft Account. And this lets you do things like change information on your account, change your password, stuff like that. So we'll click into there. And when we do click into it, we'll see that it will open like a separate window. So it might open our browser, and then we'll see this page. And then from here, we can make those edits. Now within here, you'll also have the ability to change your profile picture. So it's the picture up there, the one that you use when you're logging in. You can do it via your camera or browse for one in your photos. So now we'll go into email and account. So from here, we can see any emails that we have already associated with our account. We can also add an account. So if we click this add an account button, we should be able to add a new email. Just gonna load up here, might take a second. And then once this opens, we'll see all of our options for adding a new account. So Outlook, Office 365, Google, Yahoo, or iCloud or other. And so we can add other emails to our device if we want to. And we can select any of the options we need to do that. And then in this section, if you kind of scroll down, you'll then see any of your already existing emails. You can click into them and manage them from here. So you can click manage there, and that will allow you to make changes to that account on your device. So now we can go into sign in options. So in this area, we can basically manage how we sign into our device. So whether via password or other ways, depending on, I guess, the age and what kind of computer you have, you may have different sign-in options here. So on my computer, I have kind of facial recognition, fingerprint. I can use a PIN or a security key, picture password, or just a regular password. If I click into password, I can come in here and I can change my password by clicking that change button. We can also change when we use certain type of passwords here by turning them on and off. So we'll jump back out again to our main settings. So we'll look now at our time and language settings. So the first section we'll get to is just date and time settings. So here we can see the current date and time our device is set to. We have the option to set this automatically or manually. So right now it's set time automatically, meaning my device will know where I am and set my time accordingly. If I do want to change my time zone manually, I can go down and click this drop down and I can select the time zone I wish to set my computer in. Now this means that it will stay stagnant, so regardless of where you are, it will stay in that time zone. Whereas if you use the automatic time setting option, when you travel, it will change when you move. So generally the better option, but if you want to keep it on one time zone, you can do it this way, or if you want to select a different time zone, you can do it that way. And now we will go into our region section. So here you can basically just select the country and region you're in, and it should allow you to select kind of regional formatting for things like your keyboard and preferences from here. But you can click and select a region. Again, this should automatically kind of understand where you are, but if you do need to change it or want to change it, depending on your location or kind of what preferences you have for formatting. And when I'm talking about formats, generally this may affect things like how the date and time is presented, right? It might be presented month, day, year in certain areas, and in other areas, year, date, month when you're looking at the date, or the time might be presented in a 24-hour clock versus the 12-hour AM PM clock. So we have differences there in how things will present if we change our region. And then the next area in here we can go to is language. And this area allows us to change the language on our device. So we can see right now window display language is set to English, US English. If we click that drop down menu, we'll be able to select from a number of languages and change. And this might change how we're able to use accents when we're writing on our keyboard and all that. So an important thing to adjust if you primarily speak in a language outside of English. You should also be able to add secondary languages to here if you're switching back and forth between two languages, say when you're online. All right, so we'll jump back out to our main settings once again, and now we're going to look at ease of access, which is our accessibility settings.
So our first section in ease of access is display. So here we can do things like make our text bigger, which will affect a lot of the text that we'll be able to see on our computer. So we can make that smaller or bigger by moving this bar across and then click apply to make it stick. And then we can go down and then we can just make everything bigger. So buttons and all sorts of things that will just zoom basically the whole screen. So 100 is the recommendation, but we can go up to 175% here. We can also make things brighter, so let's just change your screen brightness by moving this bar up and down. You won't be able to see it on my screen right now, but that's what it's doing. And then there's a couple other things in this section, but those are really the main points. Now next we're going to go to mouse pointer. So in mouse pointer, what we'll be able to do is make our mouse larger. So we can make our mouse that we use to click on things larger on our screen so that it's more visible to us. It can be really helpful. And again, we just have this kind of bar that we move across the screen to make that change. And we can also change the pointer color. So right now mine's white. I can change it to black. I can change it to be like inverted depending on what it's going over, meaning if I'm going over something dark, it will become light. If I'm going over something light, it will become dark. And we can also, lastly, change the color. So we can make it, a bright orange, green, any of these options here that we'd like, or pick a custom color from this little color wheel thing here. So any of those options, just to make our pointer or mouse a bit more visible. All right, so moving on now to color filters. This allows us to turn on color filters. So this can be used if we have some sort of vision issue related to color blindness. So we can turn on color filters here by clicking this toggle. We click it, we turn it on. And then if we scroll down, we'll see the different color filters we can use. So inverted, grayscale, red, green, blue, yellow. So different things that we can change to just alter the colors on our screen so that it's more visible to us if we have certain issues seeing certain color. Grayscale and inverted can also be good for making things just clearer. And so that can be used to just for general poor vision, not necessarily related to color blindness. Next, we'll move to narrator. Now, narrator is a great setting, again, if you have visual issues. So we can turn on narrator in the section just with this on-off toggle. But what narrator does is it's kind of a screen reader. So basically, once we turn it on, it will read anything you click out loud so that you have the added benefit of being able to hear what you're clicking on as well as see it. And we can move down here and we can change some of these settings. So change the voice pitch, change the voice volume, all sorts of things to do with how we hear it. So let's now jump to closed captioning in this section. So here we can turn on general closed captioning and change some features about our closed captioning, like the size and style. And basically when we turn this on, it just means that closed captioning will be used wherever it's available. It's not going to be available always on all videos, but where it's able to put closed captioning on anything you're watching or listening to, it will do that for you. And again, we can go through this kind of list and change how we want it to look when we're using this captioning setting. And there's other areas in here to explore, so feel free to come in here and look and see what's available. There's just a lot there. But for now, we'll come back again to our main settings, and we're going to look at privacy. So in here we have a bunch of different options about our privacy. Let apps use advertising ID to make ads more interesting to you. Let websites provide locally relevant content, things like this. Right now I have these all off, but I do believe by default these are on. So if privacy is something that is a concern to you, definitely come into this section and you can turn these off. This is just how your system shares information about your usage in order to basically serve you better content online and stuff. That's really the main thing in here. So let's go back to our main settings. And lastly, we're going to look at update and security. Now, this section is really important for keeping your computer running smoothly and safe. This is where you can download your system updates. So the first thing you'll see is Windows Update. When there's updates, you can download them. You can also come here to check for updates, so you can check for new updates. And if there is one available, you'll be able to download it. Now, you should be downloading updates as soon as they become available to you for your system, because like I said, this is a main way to keep your system running smoothly and keeping it safe. All right, also in this section is backup, and this is how we can back up the data and information files on our computer to a drive. So if you come in here, you can add a drive to your computer, and when you add one, you'll be able to back up any of your information. Now, creating a backup on your computer is going to be really important to just making sure that you don't lose anything. Say, God forbid you lose your computer or something happens to it, it gets damaged, you may not access those files again. So you can click add drive and say you have a hard drive or USB plugged in, whatever it is. You'll be able to add it here, and that is an option for backups there. And from here, we'll now go to troubleshoot on our menu. So here we can troubleshoot issues with our computer. So if there's something going wrong, not working with our computer, we can use our troubleshoot troubleshooter, so we can select from this menu things that might be going wrong. And we can click on additional troubleshooters, so we can look at internet connection, troubleshooting, playing audio, printer. So all these different functions of our system that might go wrong, something might go wrong with, and we can find all of our troubleshooting options here. So if we wanted to troubleshoot our internet, we could click on, say, internet connections or playing audio here. It would run a system test, and yeah, so we'll come back out of there. And we will now go to find my device. Now this is a really important thing to set up on your computer. So find my device, you should have it turned on. Basically what this allows you to do is if you've ever lost your device, it will allow you to be able to track its location. So we can turn this on. We basically set it up with our Microsoft or whatever account we have set up on this device, so that if someone were to steal your device or you lost it, you can both track it, and also you should be able to wipe data from it so people can't steal information on it. And as you saw, you kind of set it up through that account. It will push you through to your account and you can log in. Now that is really it for your settings on your Windows. As I said, there's other things to look at, other things to explore. But there's so many settings on our computer, we couldn't possibly go through all of them. But hopefully that gives you a good idea of what's available to you on there and helps you navigate it a bit better. Now, if you have any questions about this topic, you can always call us at Cyber Seniors toll free at 844-217-3057, or you can visit us online at www.cyberseniors.org. And once again, this webinar was proudly sponsored by Breezeline.